Yeah, scooters are kind of fun. Quick explanation as we get into this video. I got this scooter a couple weeks before Christmas, had a little fun playing with it. Just as I was getting ready to shoot the review on it, we got basically 2 weeks of rain, and it completely wrecked our back patio here. So you'll have to pardon some of the mud and detritus as we're trying to clean back up, but really wanted to jump in on this and talk about some fun mobility tech. This was a product category I did a little bit more work on when I was hosting for Newegg back in the day, but I think there's an interesting idea floating around electric scooters and the ways to help offset local traffic and commutes. Okai manufactures a lot of those fleet electric scooters that you can see for rentals. They sent over a scooter for me to share my thoughts. This is the Okai Neon. I think at this point, a lot of folks are decently familiar with the concept of an e-scooter. Like, it's a grown-up version of a kick scooter. It's got a battery and a motor built into it, and it's bigger and heavier. But it should fit in well with commuters, especially in communities that have a decent amount of bicycle traffic. Immediately off of that idea, I really liked how the Neon was packaged and shipped. My last full-sized e-scooter was a Xiaomi, required a lot more setup and assembly. The Okai was refreshingly simple, basically just pulling it out of the box, connecting one set of cables, and then tightening down the handlebars to this main stock in the middle. The setup was really quick. After that, there's a little digital setup on your smartphone to get it connected to your phone and to your key, and you can customize a few of the features on the scooter from that software. Getting into the hardware, it's a really solid build. Quick pull tab here to drop the arm, lock it in place. If you ever need to carry it, it's about 35 pounds, which isn't too bad. Sliding the rest of the specs out on screen, they seem solid for the price tier that we're working in. Like, it's not hard finding a kid's scooter for half of this price, or even a starter scooter which has less range or a lower top speed. E-scooter pricing kinda scales with those kinds of features. Going a little bit faster, going a little bit farther, that's gonna add to the price. It's also where we trade a few of those fun features, how you can customize the lighting or how you can unlock the scooter with a key fob or with your phone. But we should also be balancing that against things like how well the brakes operate, if there's any kind of throttle, like if you get going downhill too fast, will it rein in your top speed, and whether or not you've got shocks. That's a little crazy that this kind of hardware is selling for around the price of a good upper mid-ranger smartphone. As you may have noticed from some of my recent videos, we just recently moved, and the area we're in now has a healthy mix of road cyclists and mountain biking trails. And it's pretty common seeing not only pedal power, but also hybrid and electric motor mobility. The tricky bit for us is we now live on the side of a pretty steep hill. And I would say the specs that I pulled out on the screen are pretty much on point. You know, this is rated for up to a 20% grade in a hill climb, and the hills around our neighborhood are a bit more of a challenge. So I was very happy with how the Neon handled some of those steeper climbs. As long as I could hit that hill with any kind of momentum, this scooter could still make it up to the top. I would totally slow down a lot, but the scooter still made it. From a top speed of 15 miles an hour, my worst run dropped me down to 9 miles an hour, but I still made it up there, and I made it up there faster than walking. Hey there, quick interruption. I always appreciate support on this channel, liking, sharing, subscribing, but let's be honest, YouTube is toxic for creators and does a miserable job of sending out notifications on new videos, even if you smash the bell icon. Which I hope you still smash the bell icon because algorithm, but we can get around that. We can go old school. And if you want more reliable updates on the content I make, consider heading on over to SomeGadgetGuy.com/subscribe. I have a whole collection of channel and playlist links that should help you out. Take it back to them RSS days, especially if you only want a category of my videos, like my headphone reviews. Once again, SomeGadgetGuy.com/subscribe. Pick your favorite feeds, and I thank you for your support. That's totally the other thing to take into consideration on a gadget like this, is those manufacturers' claims. Range estimates on electric vehicles are highly dependent on things like maximum load, hills, and weather. I need to make this clear. I am not maxing out the weight capacity of this scooter. Shut up. I'm not. But a gentle grade would often drop my top speed. Again, you know, a maximum speed of 15 miles an hour, just kind of getting up a slightly steeper hill. Maybe you're doing 12 miles an hour. And the battery capacity was obviously draining faster than the estimated maximum range. I think that max range is often calculated at a more reasonable walking pace on flat ground at sea level kind of speed and measurement. If you're really gunning the motor hard up and down hills in my neighborhood, I could maybe estimate around 14 to 15 miles on a full charge, which honestly isn't bad, again, in this class of scooter. And that's an estimate off of kind of the heaviest use scenario that you'd find. The charge time is not fast, but I honestly don't know how it really compares to other scooters in this class. Again, my last experience was with a Xiaomi about 2 years ago. It's a pretty big battery, so I'm not sure it would be safe to have smartphone-like charging super fast speeds. I don't think that sounds safe. I kind of kept forgetting to properly time how long a full charge would take. Now, the battery was 0% when it shipped, so that first charge took hours, but subsequent partial charges, they also require just a little patience. It's a little like driving an EV, an electric car. You just gotta plan ahead. But that kind of brings us to the why of an e-scooter. I want to drive my car a little less around town. Our neighborhood isn't super well laid out for walking to grocery stores. And I have this romantic notion of hopping on a scooter and picking up some groceries and jetting back home, getting some fresh air, standing up on my feet, rather than driving my gasoline-powered car in the most fuel inefficient way possible. And I think this class of scooter in general, and the Okai specifically, handles that kind of use really well for some kinds of communities. First, as I mentioned before, topography kind of matters. If I get stuck on a steep hill with this Okai and the battery's out of juice, I've got to kick drive an additional 35 pounds of scooter to make it up my hill. It's an area where an electric bicycle might make a bit more sense for some people because, e-bikes are also heavier, but you have pedals and gears like a regular bicycle. And number two is all the people who live around you. When I took an e-bike for a test drive down in Santa Monica, that town is working aggressively to build more beach infrastructure around pedestrians and cyclists. My neighborhood has a healthy amount of mountain biking and trail traffic. Other areas of Los Angeles, I'd be terrified to try and mingle with automobiles. So only you can get a feel for the locals and their ability to handle a cyclist or a scooter user. And one last part of that idea, we do have some older torn up roads in the more hillside area around us, and the Okai handles those roads surprisingly well. The shocks on the rear tire were a nice upgrade from the Xiaomi scooter I'd ridden before. Just a bit more sure-footed, handling bumps and rough patches of asphalt. Getting into the control, the app is a nice bit of companion tech, a user-friendly portal to controlling some of the geekier and more advanced features of the Neon, detailing battery information, battery diagnostics, ride settings, distance traveled, and giving you some control over the rad accent lighting. You need to have a scooter with the RGBs. Lots of geeky stuff going on, but the scooter in operation is blissfully clean. It's really just this little center display in the middle of your handlebars. That's where you tap your key fob or tap your phone to unlock the bike. And then the power button also doubles as your control for the headlight. There's very little to distract while you're in the process of operating a locomotive gadget. Okay, we should probably start wrapping this up. I've been rambling on just a little bit. My neighbors probably walking around thinking I'm a total dork, but I can't find any tragic deal breakers here. It's not the fastest or the sportiest electric motor, but it's plenty quick and it climbs hills a lot better than I was expecting it would. It's got some fun and maybe even just a little silly aesthetic features like those RGBs, but the core riding is well covered and it's smoothed out with great shocks. This company makes a good chunk of rental and fleet scooters, so there's an expectation that it should be decently reliable and well made. And pricing is right at that tier where it competes well. So riders of all skill levels should be able to find something to like here. And just looking around, I mean, the timing on this is pretty sweet. Seeing a little more interest in urban mobility and reducing our use of automobiles and fossil fuels, these kinds of options are increasingly more accessible. Speaking specifically about the Okai Neon, the scooter fits that role very well, I think it's going to make for a handy little neighborhood commuter. I will, of course, leave some links down below where you can find more information on Okai products, the whole range of scooters that they have available. They just recently announced some new scooters at CES 2022, so hopefully I'll get to play with a few of those too. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing, subscribing to the channel, supporting your favorite content creators. Always greatly appreciated, especially those of you checking out the links and maybe buying some merch underneath these videos. I really appreciated it. It helps keep production rolling on this channel. Full list of all my affiliates and partnerships on SomeGadgetGuy.com, or you might consider joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically the coolest collection of tech pals in the universe. So I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, on the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next review.